Hello and welcome to the Wake Up Podcast. I'm Ben Kaysen here with two very special guests. Of course, we got Jenny Smith from Wake Up Pueblo and Zane Grant. Zane, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Good. And how are you doing, Jenny? I guess last time as well. Sorry.
Fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys both for coming on. So we got a lot to talk about today. Let's get into CASA. So CASA is the company that you're here representing, Zane.
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit of what that is and what your role is there?
Absolutely. So CASA is an acronym. It stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates.
Okay.
What we do is we recruit community volunteers who are specially trained, who are then sworn in by a judge in our community to advocate for the children that go before them because of child abuse or neglect. So CASA is a national organization. There's over 900 CASA programs nationwide. We're fortunate enough to have 18 CASA programs here in the state of Colorado that serve roughly a little over the amount of counties that we have in the state, representing 18 judicial districts. And our program, we have 3 CASA programs. So we span an 8-county radius. So we have Pueblo County is obviously our biggest. We have an office in La Junta in the Tri-County area of Otero and Bent and Crowley. And then we have our program in the Canyon City office, which is Fremont, Park, Chaffee, and Custer counties. And our work is pretty complex. Our mission is very simple, and our mission is just to simply provide that advocacy, that voice for children who are involved in the child welfare system as a result of alleged child physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, domestic violence. All of those things fall under our purview. So essentially what our volunteers do is they go to court, they speak on behalf of what they believe to be in the best interest of the child, and they meet with the child wherever the child may be, whether that's in a foster home, whether that's in a family home, whether that's at school, anywhere that, or anyone who has contact with the children, we want to visit with them and get their impressions about what's happening in that child's life. And the purpose of that is to bring as much information as we can back to the judge so the judge can make some really good informed decisions about what's happening on our cases as well as in the lives of the children that we are charged with being a voice with and for. Jenny serves 2 roles here today, not only with Wake Up Pueblo, but Jenny has been our board chair for the last 2 years. Her term ends in December as our board chair, but she'll continue to sit on our board as long as her term is active. And we keep talking about extending that out for Jenny specifically.
That would be lovely. They're trying to kick me off, and I don't want to go. I'm so passionate.
We love
about
Jenny.
CASA.
No, we love Jenny, and we're going to try to keep her as long as we can. But that's we've got a very active board of directors, and our job is just to really link the community with what CASA does for the children that we work with.
Sure.
And we can do that in a variety of ways. People don't have to be a CASA volunteer, but we'd love it if they would become a CASA volunteer. Obviously, 100% of what we do with the children we work with is through volunteers.
Yeah.
So right now we have 99 volunteers that have served on cases so far in just Pueblo. That doesn't include our surrounding areas. So just for Pueblo for today, we have 99 active CASA volunteers, and we've worked with close to 275 children just in the Pueblo area so far this year by providing a volunteer advocate. We were going over some stats in our office the last couple of weeks, and we've definitely seen an increase in physical abuse cases. And
Just so unfortunate.
Absolutely. And we've also seen an increase in babies that are born testing positive at birth for a controlled substance. And so we've had a 60% increase in those cases over the last year. And it kind of speaks to what's going on, I think, in our community with how prevalent drugs and alcohol can be. But I also think it also is something that we're trying to track the cases that aren't quite known about right now. When COVID hit, I think our biggest concern was the lack of professionals like teachers and people that would see children on a daily basis.
Sure, because they're just staying at home and...
When kids are at home, no one's watching outside of their parents, and those are the cases that we're involved with is intrafamilial abuse situations. So it's rough. It's rough to think that there's situations out there that we can't reach because no one is really around the kids right now that we need to pay
that we don't
attention to.
even know about. And we have served a ton of kids, but then there's also some families that still haven't even been served. And so that's one of our biggest cases. Unfortunately, we don't want to have any cases, but due to society, that's just not going to happen. So we definitely still need some volunteers. So if you're somebody who is interested in serving the community and our youth and just being that special person for a child who could really use a constant positive person in their life, please reach out to CASA of Pueblo. They are an amazing organization, and we could use some really special advocates.
We certainly could. And the process is fairly simple to become an advocate. You do have to be over the age of 21. This is what's written into state statute. So we are a statutory agency. You need to have a big heart. You obviously have to care. We want you to be objective. We want you to be competent. We want you to be understanding that this is not something we put you behind a desk. We don't ask you to answer our phones or file for us. This is a hands-on, boots on the ground volunteer experience. Our volunteers are responsible for tracking their case and documenting their observations and really understanding the dynamics in the families. But other than that, there is a 40-hour pre-training that we give. So we never just throw you into a situation. Sure. And the other reason I am proud of our model is we have case supervisors is the title of the job, and that's somebody that we pay at our agency, and their job is to be the confidant for that volunteer. So you're assigned a supervisor that goes to court with you, that helps you write your court reports, that helps you prepare for any testimony that you might be asked to give by the courts or any of the parties. But what you learn in that 40-hour training is really the dynamics and what we try to strive when advocating for abused children involved in the system. There, once you go through that 40-hour training, you're sworn in, like I said earlier, by a judge, and then you're waiting your first assignment. And Jenny just went through that process. She went through our right now training is virtual, but she went through that process and was sworn in recently. So we're very proud about that.
Congrats!
And
That's cool.
And as her term ends as our board chair, then she's going to be assigned to her first case, and she'll be in the advocate role at that point. But I think the training is very comprehensive. I think it's well done. We're happy with our ability to kind of, I think, give our volunteers what they kind of need to get up and running.
So what practically does that look like for a volunteer? Say you're given a case. What is that going to look like in most situations?
So once they're assigned to the case, obviously the first step is to come in and meet with my staff, and we review the facts that we have. So we get a copy of the court file, we get a copy of DHS's recommendations as well as their information, and they meet with their supervisor and they come up with a game plan. Okay, this is the scenario. This is what the children have been dealing with. This is the family situation. And then the supervisor makes a plan with the volunteer as far as when their first home visit is going to be, when's the next court hearing, what action steps need to be taken. And so the volunteer then goes out and, they're going to make contact with the family. They're going to make contact with the children. We want our volunteers to see our kids face to face at least twice a month. I don't feel like we can be effective advocates if we don't know what's going on with the children and see them. And then after that, the case kind of progresses through the child welfare system, and our volunteers are instrumental in working with the partners that are involved on the cases, the lawyers, the caseworkers at the Department of Human Services, anybody else that is really there to help support the family. Sure. If children are removed, they go to foster care or to a relative's care. It's our preference that children remain with family if they can't be at home. We do work closely with foster parents that are responsible for caring for the children during the time that they're removed from their homes. But ultimately, we would like to see children with families and thriving, and we would ultimately like to see these children go home. That's the goal of the system. This is not a criminal case, it's a civil case. So our remedy is to try to get kids back at home. But sometimes that doesn't happen. And when it doesn't happen, sometimes it gets a little tricky as to where children need to be permanently through the rest of their childhood. Again, family is paramount. If we cannot find appropriate family members that are willing to make that commitment, then we have to look at some kind of adoptive placement. What's unfortunate about the system we work in is the children that are older. We have a pretty large group of youth that are age 9, 10, 11, all the way to 18. Sure. We don't have adoptive families running to the Department of Human Services door wanting children that are of that age. They're not wanting children who are already traumatized and, already displaying behavior issues. And they're just not as, I hate to sound like this, but this is the honest to God's truth, and I want people to hear this, that's not the attractive children that people want to adopt. And that's hard for us as an organization because we don't want to see children bouncing from foster home to foster home, but that's the reality for so many of them. So we started a program back at the end of 2011 called Fostering Futures. And it's our way to try to bring in some of these youth to give them some emancipation skills, because the other thing that we don't do well as a system is providing really good quality education for what's going to happen when they hit 18 and what life is like. And those of us that were fortunate enough to be raised at home with our parents, and we had our parents telling us, you need to do these things, you need to do that. And they were helping us, they were teaching us. For a lot of our kids that are trapped in the foster care system, we don't see that same level of education. So they do finish out their childhood kind of bouncing from one foster placement to another. So Fostering Futures was our way to bring an educational element to their world and help them think with things like banking, how to open a checking account.
Sure.
What you should look at when you have to sign legal documents like leases and contracts. Those are some of the topics that we cover. It's between 8 and 12 weeks long. We run it between October and May. Obviously, COVID, it's being run virtually right now.
Sure.
We prefer in person, but that's just not in the cards for us this year. But we do dangle a carrot. We do offer our youth that participate in the program an opportunity to earn points, and ultimately they can end up with $1,000 at the time that they emancipate that they can use as a stipend for maybe a deposit on a rental or a down payment on a car. So it's what we can do. It's limited. I'd love to be able to do more, but it's what we can offer to them right now, and that's been a very successful program. And the reason I bring that up is because of our outcomes with that are fantastic. We are seeing about a 67% increase in their skills from the time they take their pre-assessment to their post-assessment.
Wow.
Awesome.
So we know they're learning things.
That's fantastic.
And when you think about how we were raised, and I don't know either of your childhood backgrounds, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but for most people, me included, we had that family support. We had somebody that was cheering us on, that was really there for us. And so sometimes our CASA volunteers, even though they're an advocate, when we're working with the youth that are have been deemed unadoptable, which is a terrible phrase that we use, but that's the term for it, is unadoptable. And what that means for those youth is they're lacking some parents. They're lacking that parental guidance. And so many of our CASA volunteers just slip right into that role, and it's pretty phenomenal to watch that happen.
Yeah, I'll have to show you some of the videos that have been done for CASA, and you won't watch one without crying.
They're tough stories. They're really, really tough, and we don't sensationalize anything. These are the real, true, honest, and raw stories. And I think for our organization, that's what pushes us every day, when we get out of bed. And the flip side to our organization, I think, we do see the tragic, we do see the sad. But the other thing we see that's so exciting for me is our amazing volunteers and our board members that every day they are responsible for someone else's child. They're responsible for making recommendations about what's going to happen for someone else's child. Yeah. And day after day, we see the most selfless individuals in our community come in and do some pretty phenomenal things. And again, on their time, on their dime, doing something for someone else's child.
That's amazing. So both of you guys obviously very passionate about this. Can you tell me what about this issue makes you so passionate?
You don't even want me to talk about it because I'll just start crying. But it really is just these children they don't know any better. And when I used to be a teacher, I used to see these kids who kind of possess some of the same qualities that, are the children that are within these cases. And these kids don't even have a start in life because they're just a product of somebody else and how they were raised. And it's just not their fault. And it is so sad that they don't know any better. At the end of the day. So, and that's what CASA does, is I feel like that puts a person in their lives that is stable, that they can trust. And I don't even know how to explain it. I'm kind of like tongue tied right now but I guess it just really helps those children who didn't have a fighting chance otherwise.
And something that I think is cathartic for a lot of the children that we work with is the fact that these are volunteers. They're not being paid. They're the only person in that child's life that's not being paid to be there. So, when I've got the utmost respect for the professionals involved on the cases, the lawyers, the caseworkers, and everybody that is certainly just as passionate as we are, but at the end of the day, they're still getting a paycheck. And I think for the kids that they see these people coming time and time again, only because of their own volition. They're not there because they're being compensated. They're not there because somebody is because there's something in it for them. What's in it for them is here in their heart, not because at the end of the day, they're getting some kind of salary. And I think that relationship changes for the kids that we work with. I think when they realize, because we've heard from our kids that say, everybody in my life is paid to be there. And when you think about that, when you put some thought behind those words, that everybody in my life is paid to be in my life, that changes when they have a CASA volunteer, because that person's not paid and
Genuinely
they keep coming back.
Yeah.
And we have some tough situations, and we have a lot of youth that would rather reject someone before someone rejects them. It's a protection mechanism. It's how our brain works. And so sometimes our CASA volunteers can be subjected to, kind of some harsh treatment, especially with our teens that, are testing them. And I tell our CASA volunteers, you're being tested. They want to know if they can be that cruel to you, and you're going to come back, because what does that do? Over time, that builds a trust. It builds that relationship that maybe they didn't have before. And that's why we keep coming back. And that's why we're very, very dedicated and to the cause that we're working through, because we want our kids to know we're there for them. We're there for the long haul.
So if somebody wants to get involved as a CASA volunteer, how would they make that happen?
Thank you for that question. So the easiest way is to jump over to our website, which is casaofpueblo.org. And you can click the volunteer link. You can apply right there online. We have a lot of information. We do host some orientation sessions. Our next one will be in January. The third Thursday in January is typically when we hold our January orientation session. It's usually 1 hour, usually between 12 and 1 p.m. Okay. It'll be virtual, I'm sure, in January, because I don't think things are going to change magically by January. So I think we'll probably still have the online option. We're waiting to see if we'll have an in-person option for our orientation. But it's just a 1 hour presentation that we do. This is what you're going to be doing. This is what we ask for. Yeah. And once we have their application and they know this is what they want to do, we walk them through the interview process. We sit face to face with our applicants and again, answer their questions. We discuss a lot about their personal life and their motivations for becoming a volunteer. Then they're moved into the training phase, the swearing in, and then they take on their first case. Tammy Pruch is our our program director in our Pueblo office. She's wonderful. So give Tammy a call at our office, 583-6326, or shoot her an email to tammy@casaofpueblo.org. But ultimately, getting on our website is the easiest way to really get involved.
So if somebody wants to get involved and help, maybe doesn't have time to be a volunteer, what are other ways that they can help or donate? Oh,
that's a great question. So even last week, I did a birthday fundraiser on Facebook. So if you would rather your birthday funds from Facebook go to CASA, all those proceeds go to CASA. That is one way. We have 2 giant fundraisers a year. We usually have our Light of Hope luncheon that we invite people to, and that's usually on tax day in April. But unfortunately, this year we couldn't because of COVID. So, we did lose one of our largest fundraisers. And then we have Over the Edge, which is my husband did it last year. You rappel off of the Thatcher building. Oh, cool. And you raise money to rappel it. I mean, it's just a great cause. And so those are our 2 largest fundraisers that we have. Obviously, you can donate at any time. Coming up here in December 8th, is it, Zane?
So December 1st is going to be Giving Tuesday. So the way I remember it is we have Black Friday on the Friday after Thanksgiving. Yep. Then we have Cyber Monday, which is the Monday following. And then we have Giving Tuesday, which is the first Tuesday following Thanksgiving. So I believe this year that falls on December 1st. And we also have, we try to make sure that for the families that celebrate Christmas, which is the majority of them, that we do help the families with Christmas gifts and food for the holidays. And so we do have a lot of people that would like to donate to our organization with new toys or new warm clothing items. We have some families that want to adopt an entire family. So that might include doing, Christmas for maybe 2 or 3 of the children that are involved and maybe doing a food basket. So again, Tammy helps us coordinate all of those donations as they come in. But, with Christmas coming up, it's going to be tough. And this is going to be a tough year for a lot of families. I can't think of another year in my 18-year history with the organization. I think every year I think this is going to be a tough Christmas. This is going to be a tough Christmas. But this year is going to be a tough Christmas. I don't think we know how tough families have it right now. And so
we need people to help donate for Christmas too. So if you would like to adopt a family, for Snap Fitness, and we will actually be doing here at Wake Up, we'll have a box. So if you would like to come bring goods, new jackets, new gloves, new hats, anything like that, we always do a drive for CASA. So if you're interested in doing that, or even gift cards are great for the youth. So just buy a bunch of $5-10 gift cards.
Absolutely.
Those are great little stocking stuffers that we get to give to our kiddos. And
it helps us. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because with the gift cards, particularly with our older youth, first of all, they don't get a lot of time to shop for themselves, and they don't have a lot of resources to shop for themselves. And I think there's a lesson in that too, when we can give them a gift card and say, okay, you've got $20 on this card. How are you gonna stretch that? How are you gonna make that get the biggest bang for your buck for that $20? And so I think there's a lesson involved in that, but we also like it because it helps us, because a lot of times we get inundated with the younger youth gifts, and we don't have a lot for our older youth. And we serve children from 0 to 18, and in some cases they stay after their 18th birthday. If they're in foster care, they can stay through the age of 21. So we do need to focus on our older youth as well. And gift cards are fantastic. Jackets of any size and in any color, any gender. We need warm clothing for our youth right now.
And it does have to be new, correct?
Right. So if you have, it is, and it's part of just our capacity as a nonprofit, and particularly with COVID, we're not able to take any used donations, but we have an agreement with another organization here in town, with Cooperative Care, and they allow our families to go in and shop for free, but they have the facility to really bring in those used donations where we just don't. Sure. So when it comes to school supplies and the donations we receive to our office on Abriendo, we do like new items. And I always challenge people, it's great when you're able to give the used items, but our kids, that's all they get. They've never had a lot of brand new stuff.
Sure.
And so again, that's something.
Even if it's luggage.
That's right.
That might be a great gift for an older kid.
That's right. Because
unfortunately,
they move so much.
They move from foster family to foster family. It's so unfortunate. And, half the time they're in Walmart bags.
Yeah.
So,
We had a donor one time actually kind of make care packages out of luggage, brand new luggage, and then they put cool. Lots of gifts inside the luggage that were individually wrapped, and that's how it was presented to the youth, and that was fantastic.
That's a great idea.
It really was. It was. I'm
and don't
shocked.
we have one of our advocates that makes pillowcases?
So she's not an advocate. She's just a big CASA supporter.
Oh, okay.
But what she does, her name is Janelle Fuhrer, and she has a group, and they make pillowcases, and they hunt for the coolest fabric. All of the cool shows. Guardians of the Galaxy and Curious George and My Little Pony, and she finds all this really great fabric, and then she makes pillowcases.
That's cool.
And then our partners at McClellan School, they do a pillow drive, and so the families at McClellan purchase the pillows, and we stuff them, and normally, like I said, not this year, but normally we do a big Christmas party for our kids, and they get to come and meet Santa, and they get a new pillow and a book and pajamas. We'll still be able to do those things, but they'll be from home instead of gathering at our office.
Sure.
But, back to what Jenny was saying, a lot of people don't have time to go do the shopping. That's okay. Make a donation to us. We'll go do the shopping. That's what we do. And sometimes we have needs where we have, 5 things for one child in a family and only 3 things for another. And so we have to patchwork that together. So the cash donations
and you
generally
could just
help us.
donate online.
That's
just
right.
go to casaofpueblo.org and donate right there. It's actually super, super simple.
Yep. You can do it on Facebook. You can do it on PayPal, on our website.
You could drop a check off here at Wake Up or at CASA. I'd make sure it gets to Zane and anything like that. So if you're interested, we would love to have your support. We would love to have your donations. Obviously, not everybody has the time.
That's right.
But if you are in the giving mood this season, come Giving Tuesday on the 1st, we would love to have your support or anything you can help with our kiddos, because this is going to be a tough Christmas, unfortunately.
And if someone buys gifts for you guys, for those kids, where would they drop those off at?
So they can bring them to our office, which is 130 West Abriendo, right on the corner of Abriendo and Quincy. Excuse me. If you know where Family Dollar is, or Taffy's.
Taffies. I always say Taffies. I always get a little sweet treat
That's
before I go
right.
to my board meeting there.
We're 2 doors away from Taffy's, which is dangerous for me and my staff. But it's a great location, and just come by. You may want to call first just to make sure. We are on limited hours because of COVID, and obviously we're having some staffing issues because of COVID in terms of how many people we can have in the building at a time. So just give us a call, 583-6326, and set a time. And if you want more information about how to adopt a family, give us a call. Or if you want specifics as far as the kinds of donations that are helpful to us, we have a document that we can send to you that kind of says, here's the do's and don'ts of buying for a charity like ours. But at the end of the day, like us on Facebook. We put a lot of that out on Facebook. So
like us on Facebook.
Yes.
And then too, I just want to give a huge shout out to you, Zane Grant. You are just an amazing rock for CASA. We are so blessed to have your leadership within Southern Colorado. So thank you for everything that you do. And a big thanks to your staff too, because I hear all the stories that you guys are doing. And I mean, you don't find a better team than CASA of Pueblo. I mean, their hearts are in it every day. So I truly want to say thank you for everything you do. I've loved being on the board because of you and your staff, but you guys are all fantastic. So thank you.
We couldn't do what we do without people like Jenny in our community. So we're very grateful.
That's awesome. Hey, thank you so much for coming on, Zane. Thank you, Jenny, as well. Can you give us one more time? How do they contact you here at the end?
You bet. So 583-6326 is our phone number. casaofpueblo.org is the website, or you can search on Facebook for Casa of Pueblo. And if you're on Instagram, we're on Instagram. Find us on Instagram, Twitter. We're on, I think, most of the major sites, but Facebook is our most active site.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking about your mission, and it's a huge deal, and so it's great. I love to hear that you guys are doing such great stuff here in Pueblo.
Thank you.
It's
Thanks
awesome.
for the time.
Yeah, and check out also the other Wake Up podcasts. We've got them coming out every week. This will be coming out every Friday, these free podcast Fridays, so be sure to check them out as they come out. We have more coming up. If you want to come in for your business for another free podcast, come on in and we'll get you scheduled. It'll be great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.